Love the Ravens as much as we do? Then smash that subscribe button and stay locked in with Flock News for all the drama, updates, and excitement all season long. When whispers start moving through league circles, the kind that don't come with official statements or flashy press releases, that's when the real stories begin to breathe. And right now, one of those whispers is painting a wild picture involving Terry McLaurin and a potential move that could shake the entire balance of the conference. The idea floating around is simple but explosive. McLaurin, long respected for his toughness, route precision, and quiet leadership with the Commanders, somehow finding his way into the Ravens' locker room. This is not being treated as a done deal, not even close, but as one of those rumors that feels just believable enough to keep insiders talking late into the night. From a narrative standpoint, it fits perfectly with what the Ravens have been trying to build, a more dynamic, more intimidating aerial identity that finally matches their physical reputation. McLaurin has always been seen as a receiver who thrives even when circumstances are far from ideal, producing through chaos, instability, and constant defensive attention. Now imagine that same player stepping into an offense where defenses already fear the run, the quarterback's mobility, and the sheer unpredictability of play calling. The rumor alone sends a jolt through fan bases, because it hints at a transformation rather than a tweak, a move that would signal ambition and urgency rather than patience. What really fuels this speculation is how perfectly McLaurin's skill set seems to align with what the Ravens have been missing for years, at least in the eyes of analysts and fans who crave a more explosive passing threat. He is not just fast, he is calculated, understanding leverage, timing, and how to create separation in tight windows. The Ravens have invested in receivers before, but this rumor suggests something different, a belief that one elite, battle-tested target could elevate everyone else in the room. People around the league quietly note how McLaurin commands respect without demanding the spotlight, which fits the Ravens' culture of accountability and toughness. In this speculative scenario, he wouldn't arrive as a diva savior, but as a tone setter, someone whose daily habits raise the standard. The chatter emphasizes how defenses would be forced to make uncomfortable choices, because focusing too heavily on McLaurin could open lanes elsewhere, while ignoring him would be a mistake no coordinator wants to make, even as a rumor. The idea alone reframes how opponents might think about preparing for Baltimore. From the Commanders' side of this speculative equation, the rumor carries a bittersweet tone, because McLaurin has been one of those players who embodied reliability during uncertain stretches. The talk is not about dissatisfaction or drama, but about timing and value, about whether both sides might quietly accept that change could be beneficial. In these whispers, the Commanders are portrayed as a team evaluating their long-term direction, weighing the cost of holding onto a star versus the potential return that could accelerate a broader reset. It is framed as a chess move rather than a breakup, with McLaurin's reputation intact and his professionalism unquestioned. For Ravens fans listening to these murmurs, that context matters, because it suggests a player arriving hungry, focused, and eager to prove himself on a bigger stage. The rumor paints him as someone who would relish the challenge of joining a contender with high expectations, where every snap carries weight. That kind of motivation is hard to quantify, but it is often what separates good additions from transformative ones. As the story circulates, the focus inevitably shifts to how McLaurin would be used in Baltimore. And this is where the speculation really catches fire. The Ravens' offensive identity has been evolving, leaning more into balance and deception, and adding a receiver of McLaurin's caliber could unlock concepts that were previously theoretical. The rumor mill imagines him lining up all over the formation, forcing defenses to declare their intentions early, creating mismatches before the ball is even snapped. His ability to win on the outside would stretch coverage horizontally, while his discipline on intermediate routes would punish any hesitation. This isn't about flashy highlights alone, but about sustained pressure, about an offense that keeps defenses guessing snap after snap. In these speculative conversations, coaches are imagined smiling at the possibilities, knowing they could finally dictate terms rather than react. The mere idea of McLaurin in that system feels like a missing puzzle piece, clicking into place, at least in theory. The emotional reaction from Ravens supporters, even at the rumor stage, is telling, because it reflects years of pent-up desire for a true difference maker at receiver. The chatter online and in sports radio circles frames this as a statement move, one that would announce the Ravens are done experimenting and ready to commit. McLaurin's reputation as a tough, Uncomplaining worker resonates deeply with a fanbase that values grit as much as flair. In speculative narratives, he becomes more than a player. He becomes a symbol of intent. Of an organization refusing to settle, the excitement is tempered by realism, of course, because rumors have a way of dissolving. But that doesn't stop people from imagining packed stadiums buzzing with anticipation. Every time he lines up wide, that emotional investment is part of what gives the rumor legs, because it feels like something that should happen, even if there is no guarantee it will, ultimately. This first wave of speculation is less about contracts or logistics and more about vision. It asks a simple question dressed in complex circumstances. What if the Ravens decided to go all in on a receiver who has already proven he can thrive under pressure? McLaurin's name carries weight, not because of flashy headlines, but because of consistent excellence. The rumor suggests a convergence of needs and opportunities, a moment where ambition could override caution, whether it materializes or not. The conversation itself reveals a hunger for evolution, for a Ravens offense that commands respect on every level, and as long as that hunger exists, these whispers will continue to circulate, growing louder with every retelling, keeping fans locked in and dreaming about what could be. As the rumor deepens and spreads, the narrative begins to shift from simple curiosity to detailed imagination, with people around the league painting vivid pictures of how Terry McLaurin could redefine the Ravens' receiving corps from the inside out. In these speculative discussions, the emphasis is not just on talent, but on chemistry, on how one player's presence can recalibrate an entire room. McLaurin is often described as the kind of professional who elevates practice intensity, who runs every route as if it matters, because to him it always does. The rumor suggests that younger receivers would feed off that energy, absorbing habits that don't always show up on stat sheets but win games over time. In Baltimore, where physicality and discipline are cultural pillars, that influence could be profound. The talk imagines meetings where McLaurin's voice carries weight, not because he demands it, but because it is earned. This is the kind of addition that changes how a unit sees itself, transforming a group of individuals into a collective threat. Even as speculation, it hints at a cultural ripple effect that extends far beyond Sundays. Another layer of this rumor focuses on the quarterback connection, because any elite receiver's impact is magnified by trust and timing. The whisper suggests that McLaurin's precise route running and reliable hands would quickly earn confidence, allowing the offense to expand its playbook organically. The idea is not about forcing targets, but about knowing, instinctively, where your receiver will be when pressure closes in. In this speculative world, third downs become less stressful, red zone sequences more calculated, because there is always a dependable option available. Analysts in these imagined conversations talk about how McLaurin's ability to adjust mid-route could be a quarterback safety valve, turning broken plays into positive moments. This isn't framed as a magic solution, but as a stabilizing force, something that brings calm to chaos. The rumor thrives on this concept because it speaks to football fundamentals that transcend hype and trends. From a strategic standpoint, the speculation goes even further, envisioning how defenses would be forced to adapt week after week. With McLaurin in the mix, coordinators could no longer cheat coverage or overload certain areas without consequence. The rumor paints a picture of safeties hesitating, linebackers caught in no man's land, corners forced to play honest football snap after snap. That kind of pressure accumulates, wearing down opponents mentally as much as physically. In these imagined scenarios, the Ravens' offense becomes less predictable, less reliant on any single dimension. McLaurin's presence would demand respect, and respect opens space, a fundamental truth of the game. Even if the rumor never becomes reality, it reveals how one player can alter the theoretical calculus of an entire conference. The financial and organizational side of the rumor is treated carefully. In these whispers, often brushed aside in favor of football fit, but it still lingers in the background. The talk suggests that if such a move were to happen, it would signal confidence in the Ravens' broader plan, a willingness to invest in a finishing piece rather than hoard flexibility. McLaurin, in this speculative narrative, is not seen as a gamble, but as a known quantity, a receiver whose floor is as valuable as his ceiling. That perception matters because it reframes the conversation from risk to opportunity. Fans and commentators imagine front office meetings where the debate is not whether McLaurin is worth it, but whether the moment is right. That kind of discussion alone implies a franchise thinking aggressively, with eyes firmly on the ultimate prize. Emotionally, the rumor taps into something deeper for Ravens supporters. a longing to see their team silence lingering doubts about their offensive identity for years. Critics have questioned whether the Ravens could consistently win through the air when it matters most. The idea of McLaurin arriving feels like a direct response to that narrative, a way to confront skepticism head-on. In speculative fan conversations, his arrival would represent belief, both in the quarterback and in the system, a declaration that the time for excuses has passed. That emotional resonance is powerful, because it connects roster moves to pride and legacy. Even as a rumor, it sparks debates, dreams, and heated arguments. All signs of a fanbase deeply invested in the direction of its team. In the end, what makes this rumor so compelling is not just the player involved, but the story it tells about ambition and timing. In professional football, Terry McLaurin to the Ravens exists right now as an idea, a possibility whispered in corridors and amplified by imagination. It represents the hope that all the right elements could align, that a proven receiver could find a new stage perfectly suited to his strengths. Whether it remains speculation or evolves into something tangible, the rumor has already done its job, igniting conversations and reminding everyone how quickly the league's landscape can change. And until clarity arrives, fans will keep listening, debating, and envisioning a Ravens offense transformed by the arrival of a receiver, ready to explode onto a bigger canvas. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. As this rumor continues to circulate, it also invites a broader reflection about legacy and timing, especially when a player like Terry McLaurin is placed at the center of such a speculative storm. In these imagined conversations, McLaurin is portrayed as someone standing at a crossroads, not out of dissatisfaction, but out of opportunity. The idea of joining the Ravens is framed as a chance to redefine how his career is remembered, shifting from respected standout on a rebuilding roster to defining piece on a roster with championship aspiration. The rumor leans heavily on the notion that players like McLaurin do not fear pressure, they seek it. Because pressure validates years of unseen work. In Baltimore, the spotlight is brighter, expectations louder, and every mistake magnified. But so is every triumph. That balance is what fuels the speculation, because it feels narratively right. Fans imagine him embracing cold road environments, hostile crowds, and tight playoff atmospheres, thriving not because conditions are perfect, but because they are demanding. Even without confirmation, the rumor paints a portrait of a player ready for a larger chapter, one where his influence extends beyond routes and receptions into moments that define seasons. The speculation also subtly reshapes how people talk about the Ravens as an organization, suggesting a philosophical shift that prioritizes calculated boldness over conservative patience. In these whispered scenarios, adding McLaurin is not about chasing headlines, but about acknowledging windows and acting before they close. The Ravens are imagined as a franchise that understands how fleeting opportunities can be, how rare it is to have a roster poised to contend if just one or two elements fall into place. McLaurin becomes the embodiment of that missing element, a player who does not require projection or hope, but arrives with proof of concept already established. This rumor-driven narrative suggests a front office willing to trust its evaluation, to say that fit and mindset matter as much as raw numbers. It casts the Ravens as hunters rather than reactors, a subtle but powerful shift in perception. Even rival fan bases take notice in these speculative discussions, because they recognize what it could mean if Baltimore truly commits to elevating its passing identity. Ultimately, what keeps this rumor alive is how naturally it fits into the larger story fans want to believe about momentum, destiny, and unfinished business. The idea of Terry McLaurin exploding the Ravens' receiving corps is not just about adding talent, but about unleashing potential that has been waiting for the right alignment of circumstances. In this imagined future, his arrival sparks a chain reaction, confidence grows, play calling loosens, and the offense takes on a sharper edge. Whether any of this becomes reality is secondary to the emotional truth of the rumor, which is that it represents hope grounded in logic rather than fantasy. As long as people can picture it so clearly, see how the pieces might connect, the speculation will persist. And in that space between rumor and reality, fans will continue to talk, to dream, and to believe that sometimes the boldest ideas are the ones that end up changing everything. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.